Hey guys, I wanted to make this video going over this entire deadlift workout. So you're kind of going to see everything. I hit 661, 300 kilos right here for the easiest it's really ever felt. And really could not be happy about that. That was about an RP 9. I think I probably could have gone to like 683 if I wanted to, but that's not the plan. I put down for my down set of 617 for 2, which would be PR double. For some reason, my grip started to just slip. I think it's because my calluses were just kind of coming undone. Didn't really grip the barbell right. So I threw on some straps and I got it again. And yeah, so basically I got like 4 reps total this workout about with 617. So that's really, really cool. And then like positioning is feeling a lot better. I slightly pointed my toes out more and widened my stance on sumo. And that's really helped me just be able to get a little bit better wedge down to the bar and have my hips closer. I can pull more slack out by getting a more upright torso position as well. So it feels really, really good. Now it's kind of about just executing the plan. And I did a 562 for triples after that, which is also a volume PR. So all in all, like this is going really, really, really well. I'm peaking deadlift. It's feeling good. Prep has been kind of rocky in terms of what I have been feeling like right now, as usual. Once you get to about 4 weeks out, you kind of just have this perpetual constant feeling of fatigue usually and just being tired. Like I came into this session, I did my best. I stuck to my numbers and I can still do the work. It's just like my motivation to train is definitely down. But I'm still being able to put out weights that I have to, and getting in really, really good training. So overall, I really can't complain too much. And also, this is my choice. It's part of getting really, really, really strong. You have to make trade-offs and whatnot. I did a lot of accessories after this. You guys are kind of just seeing it. I kind of do somewhat of a full body split every single day, which is kind of how I prefer to program for powerlifting. I feel like there are a lot of benefits to that, although it's not like the one way to do it. It's based on like how I've kind of responded to my overall training. I feel like this is the best way that I've been able to manage my fatigue, get in all the accessory volume that I need to, and not be like overly sore going into a session. So one of my biggest problems, I would do like all this volume on my back on one day, and I'd come and have to do some squats or deadlifts or some bench press, and I would just feel like just completely beat. And this kind of helps fix it. So yeah, I'm basically keeping all my accessories until the meet. But I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the purposes of like understanding your program and how strength training is different and how you have to approach it versus hypertrophy training. So hypertrophy-based bodybuilding training is mostly about doing enough volume and trying hard enough. And that means that basically when you come into the gym, you just try really hard, you do enough volume, and you're going to gain muscle. It's not as sensitive to fatigue dynamics like if you're doing sets of 10. You can still get a pretty productive hypertrophy workout, even if your fatigue levels are really, really high. That is not the case at all with strength. With strength, you really need to be on your crap. You need to be able to understand how to manage fatigue and rein it in on certain days. So understanding your training split and when to push and when not to push is really, really important. So if you, for example, know that it's not a primary day, it's not like your most important day of the week, you need to make sure that you keep that day a little bit easier intentionally so that you are ready and your fatigue patterns are lined up so that you are strong enough on that one day. And just kind of understanding that, having that maturity with your training approach and mindset is going to help you reap benefits, because it's also a skill to know when to turn it on and when not to turn it on in training, so that you're able to, be able to produce force in the most optimal manner and the most possibly can with strength. So that's just something to keep in mind. So, understanding which is your primary day, the most important day of the week, and structure your training days around it, and your splits in order to manage that fatigue so that day is actually predictably strong. That's the most important part with strength training, is probably managing acute fatigue more. I'm not saying it doesn't matter in hypertrophy training. I'm just saying you have to have more intention behind it with strength training. But right now, I'm feeling good. I'm just finishing up my face pulls right here. I'm pretty lean right now. I'm weighing in around like 181, 182. I just slightly increased my calories going on into the speed, so that should help me out with some recovery going into my meet. But yeah, overall things are going really, really well. I'm excited for training to improve and get better, and just come into this meet strong. And I'm just trying to have some fun to see, what can I put up for this last meet as a junior, and then starting my bulk up to 198 slowly. So that'll be pretty cool. So,
Eddie, how is your session going?
Pretty fucking miserable.
Miserable? It'd be like that sometimes.
It do be like that sometimes.
So you are part of the High Velocity Boys Olympic weightlifting. So what goes into your training? Do you do more concurrent style, like speed, power, like strength days, and then some generalized hypertrophy?
Yeah.
Does it kind of look like that? Sort of like a concurrent DUP?
Yeah, dude. So it really just varies on the individual. Like right now, me specifically, I'll have blocks where I focus mostly on strength, or blocks where I focus mostly on power and speed. Right now I'm doing a little bit of everything. But I'm mostly focusing on strength.
So basically a more modern periodization form of block periodization.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically pushing strength really hard, and some stages you'll put more the speed work and explosive power stuff, over on like maintenance volumes or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you'll push it at different times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's fun, dude. Have you ever tried it?
I did Olympic weightlifting for a little bit when I was in high school. I played as football for a little bit. I was pretty good at clean cleans and power cleans.
Yeah.
I think I got a 235-pound power clean.
Oh yeah. That's really good.
I was just 15 years old. That was before I got anorexic.
Holy shit.
And then I lost all my gains and got down 135 and skinny. But yeah, I mean you and I have been here for fucking 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to do I have to do cardio right now. You guys are gonna hear my voiceover of the workout, but overall I felt pretty shit coming in, but weights are moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that we were talking about, is how not every day is going to feel good. Nope. You just need to come in. You just need to shut up, do the work, and be honest about you with your goals. A lot of people have this whole misconception that everything has to be perfect. You have to feel good. Their lives have to be all around training. And the reality is, even professional athletes that you see, they don't make money from these sports. No. They have their own businesses. They have their own jobs. They do their own things. You're not special because you work or whatever. Usually it comes down to just I'm sure you agree with this. You probably have your life more crafted around this, but you got to make some sacrifices in your other areas to be really good at this.
Oh, dude, 100%. And it's that's with anything. I feel like to really be good at anything, it's what do you have to sacrifice in order to commit more time?
And also, are you willing to do that? Because the reality is, most people are oh yeah, I want to be kind of strong. I want to be kind of aesthetic. And it's just do you really though?
Do you really though?
You can look really good. You can look better, and you can also make improvements. Mm-hmm. But I think lots of people obviously if you want to get to the top of any sport, you need to just put in sacrifices, and a lot more time. But I think it's a big misconception that people have. It's oh, I have a job, I can't train. You can probably train for an hour a day. Mm-hmm. You probably choose to do Netflix or something else because you're tired. I know nobody that is so busy they cannot put in 30 minutes of training. Do you know what barbell medicine is?
Biomedicine?
Barbell medicine.
Well,
so basically, they were in residency for beginning of their doctors, they're MDs. Yeah. They would come in after working nights, 16-hour shifts, come and train. They're it's not the best training ever. Yeah. But what are you going to do? Not train? Exactly. And what they would do is they would kind of choose 2 compound lifts. Mm-hmm. This is what I recommend for lots of people that are just really time restricted. And this is what I do with a lot of my clients. I have a client in prep right now who's working as a nurse, and she works another job. She's working 80-hour weeks, and she's a mom. Yeah. And she's still getting prep in. What we do with her is I have her do higher frequency on squat, bench, and deadlift, and then we do mile reps on she's two main lifts and then 1 to 2 accessories. Mm-hmm. Is that ideal? No. Is it better than doing fucking nothing and being a little bitch and being a big victim? I'm sorry, but that's really how I view. I view as being a little bitch, because if you really want it, you will make it work. Mm-hmm. You will make it work. It's what are you going to do? Not pay your bills? You're going to find a way to find a job, to work, to make it work.
Yeah.
And I know there are some situations where you literally cannot train. You literally cannot. Those are very few and very far in between.
Not just that, dude, but it's like, even if it's just 2-3 days a week, that's so much better than nothing. So many people want, let's say, 1,000,000, but still like one is better than zero. They don't look at it that way.
Exactly.
Or so many people
And
want
dude,
that
there's
Bugatti.
probably 1 or 2 days a week where you don't fucking work.
Yeah. Dude, or even this, it's like, so many people say they want a Bugatti, but it's like, no, they don't. They just want a fast car.
Yeah.
And it's like, you'd be so much better off getting a Mustang, which is what, $30K, compared to like 250.
I mean, Mustangs are pretty shit cars, to be honest.
Exactly.
But
It's considered fast though, but it's like beginning tier, I'd say.
yeah.
But I don't know.
Anyways, that's our little rant. Like, we've been here for 3 hours. We don't feel very good. But like, you're glad to come in, do your job, and you know what? Like, not everybody's going to have the time to spend, all this time in the gym, do all of this volume. But there are ways to get it in. There are ways to make it work. You need to just make the choice to get better, and just don't become a victim of the circumstance. There's a book I recommend that you guys read. It's called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. It really changed my outlook on life. So, yeah. Anyways, that's it for this rant.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta do cardio. I'm not gonna film it. That's boring. I had some abs. I didn't film it. The abs are boring. I mean, I look like a fucking fish flopping around. But yeah,
Gang, gang.
do your job.
Hey guys, so I want to end off this video talking about my 2 new free programs that I have put out for powerlifting. I put out a 9-week program a little bit earlier, but that was more sort of like a generalized, like very much like beginner sort of general fitness, not really super powerlifting specific, kind of like, I'm kind of interested in the squat, bench, and deadlifting, getting stronger, but I also really care about bodybuilding. And I wanted to kind of niche down a little bit more into just powerlifting, since that's really my biggest passion with coaching. I do coach like everybody who wants to get bigger, stronger, and more aesthetic. But I definitely do like coaching powerlifters. I think that strength programming is definitely my specialty as well as. So I want to put out this resource for you guys to just really take advantage of, and just put out some good programming. Hopefully this kind of helps out, and those of you guys who are looking for a good program. So I just wanted to go over things and basically how to get it. So if you go into my Instagram, you can go onto my link tree, and then you'll have the link right here, obviously from my coaching, training cycles, if you want that. But for the free 9-week beginner powerlifting program, you just click on this, and you enter in your email address, and you'll get an email address to your inbox sent to you. As well as same thing for the intermediate one. You'll get an email that looks kind of like this. Let me see. We'll pull up with this kind of saying you'll have a link to download each, like one of these programs. You have to click file and make a copy in each one of these. So this is going to be the beginner one. And basically this is just going to give you a little bit of an overview over the beginner program and whatnot. And you're going to want to go here to file once it loads, and then go to make a copy, and you'll have your own one in the sheets, since the sheets are protected and it can only be edited by moi, just because I don't want y'all messing around with my baby. So, but this kind of will give you the overall insight. But basically the differences between the beginner program and the intermediate program, I'm going to talk a little bit about them right here. So the beginner program is a little bit less volume on the competition list. It's a little bit more linear in progression. And it's going to be, I guess, a little bit more of the basics of what, beginners need to be going around. Beginners need a little bit less competition specificity, less volume. They need a little bit less variation on exercises, and just frequency of exposure. It just needs to be a little bit higher for like technical learning. This is more of a linear progression. There is some different variations of programming to be a little more nuanced, just like a 5x5. But the overall progression scheme is not that complex. Basically, 5 to 8 reps on the competition list are primarily going to be in the first block, with maybe some lower exposure, like on the squats, to a little bit of a higher intensity, and the bench press. But mostly working on technique, more learning, kinesthetic awareness of your body in space and whatnot, with more of these higher reps in the first block for the weeks 1 through 3. And you'll go down to weeks 4 through 7, which is a little bit of a wave load into lower rep ranges. And you're going to have some singles practice on on the list too, because you'll either go into a deload or onto a taper or a test after you finish up this entire week. But this is going to be a little more simple of a program, a little less volume, and you don't want to go into like doing as much volume as possible at once. It's kind of like to progress, and you want to milk out a linear progression more or less as long as you possibly can as a beginner. But also I think it's important as well to not just have like one rep range like 5s, but to get used to the sport of powerlifting. So obviously doing some singles, doing some 1 to 3 rep ranges of 90+%. Or 85+% is just really important, because you're going to need to learn how to move the weight. But most of your work should be done, with 4 to 8 reps, in my opinion, on the competition lifts as a beginner, just to get more skill practice and whatnot. And you'll either move on after you finish week 7 to a deload week, and then you can restart the program over again. Or if you want to test and whatnot, you can taper and test for a specific date to test. You can also run this into a competition if you needed to. If you needed to do that, I actually change this to beginner. I just released this, but I'll do that later. But that's basically the beginner program overview. Next, if you look at the intermediate one, the big difference with the intermediates is that they need to be focused a lot more on having a variety of rep ranges and different skills to do, and more volume, in particular on the bench press, to drive more adaptations and progress. So if you look at the differences between the beginner, there's a similar template, but this is kind of, I wanted to keep it that way, just to kind of show like what the differences are, in my opinion, between more of the intermediates and more of the beginner programs. The main one is just going to be total volume in terms of sets and reps per week, in particular. There's a little bit higher reps, a little bit more frequent exposure to singles, since intermediates probably need more exposure to the heavier loads to maintain that acquisition of the skill and the top end strength than beginners do. Since beginners, it's just more about building, and then this is more of like a DUP setup. So basically, basically you could look at this week, these days, as like more of a hypertrophy day. This is more of a strength-based day with higher intensities. Deadlift is still strength. I find that for a lot of people, rep work is really important for making really good progress on the deadlift in particular. And then I'm also adding in a little more skill practice on the deadlift too, to help drive adaptations. But make sure that you stick to the RPEs and whatnot. But basically, there's going to be more overall volume, a little bit more variance of rep ranges, and basically a DUP setup, as opposed to a more linear block progression with a beginner. Because the difference is like an advanced one beyond this would be like, probably I would do like a DUP, but with like more blocks. So it'd be like more like it'll be a little bit more nuanced in terms of setup, in terms of like how fast you progress throughout rep schemes, and whatnot, and like how long you stay at a certain RPE, and maybe we'll like undulate like waves and linear. But anyways, going back to the intermediates, week 4 is a wave load down to new rep schemes, getting a little more competition specific. Average loads, intensities are increasing, just like on the beginner program. But again, the volume is still higher. And I basically have you going through this with a little bit more of, intensities going up, still the same sets, reps, just still a little bit more volume in overall for the intermediate trainee, and a little more variety on rep ranges as well too in this block, and pushing intensity a little bit harder. And then you go into a deload week, or you go into and you can restart the program, or you can go into taper and test for competition. But so yeah, that's basically the intermediate program and the beginner program. Links are in my bio if you guys are interested. Hopefully you guys make some good gains on this. Please tag me if you guys are running the program, so I can hype you up and give you guys some some support. And I hopefully you guys see some great progress from this program. And yeah, I'm excited for you guys to run it. I'll also link it down below to them in the description of this video. But yeah, that's it for this video.